Thank you first and foremost, everybody, for joining us. Really excited about this session by Matt. But before I get into introducing Matt, there are a couple of you. In fact, how many of you don't really know much about fit20 or have not been to fit20 before? Just give me a little wave. Okay, I'll do a really quick 5-minute potted version about it, and I'll do my best to do it justice. It's an incredible way to actually condition your body and be in the best shape that you could possibly be. So from the age of 25, the amount of growth hormone that your body produces actually starts to decline. And it goes down bit by bit by bit every year up to 1%. And along with that, you lose muscle mass, you lose strength, you lose bone density, and it's commonly known as aging. And one of the things that we should do is to exercise, to try and produce growth hormone so that we can maintain strength or muscle mass, keep our metabolism moving, and all the other things that have a cascading effect from this declining growth hormone. And fit20 have actually got this really clever science-based method that most people find is a godsend. And the reason is the two top excuses to not exercising regularly as much as we know we should is number one, lack of time. Anyone sometimes feel, oh, I wish I had more time in my day? Or was it just me? Yeah, give me a wave. Yeah, absolutely. So it's lack of time because, you know, you may not have time to go and exercise every single day and do 30 minutes of running around or whatever it is that you do. And the other one is lack of progress or results or feeling like you don't know what you're doing. So fit20 have a way that with a personal trainer, in just one session, in 20 minutes a week, you give your body what's known as the optimal stimulus. And the trick is it's not how long you exercise for, it's how effectively you exercise. And we have a way that reaches something called momentary muscle failure, where we actually fatigue your muscle completely and very deeply in 20 minutes. That causes the body to have something called an adaptive response. So if you don't use it, you lose it. But if you kind of push the body to its limits, it's in a nice way, it sounds horrible, but it's not, in a nice way, then you produce this release of growth hormone, and that has a knock-on effect on improving and maintaining your muscle mass, your bone density. In fact, all the body's systems, your cardiac system, your vascular system, your endocrine system, your hormonal system, and every other system in your body. Everything affects everything else because it's all interconnected. And we measure every single workout and you get great results. And that in a nutshell is fit20. Sounds amazing. It might even sound too good to be true. So the best thing when you're allowed to and it's safe is get along to a fit20 studio and try a free session. And basically everything I've said, if it hasn't made a jot of sense, it'll all fall into place for you. Okay, so that's the potted whistle-stop tour of fit20. I hope it was helpful for those of you that are new to it. I see a couple of nods, polite, if not absolutely anything else. Now for the main event, Matt Appleby. Let me tell you a little bit about Matt Appleby. I had the opportunity and privilege of being introduced to Matt about 1.5 years or so ago. And he became a customer of fit20 straight away because he was looking for something that he could do. Having had kids, he'd done strength training, but he'd gone off the gym because hitting the 40s and 2 young kids, he was finding that he was doing yoga, which had changed his life. He'd had a corporate background where he was all stressed out, hated it, and he found yoga, or yoga found him, and he trained up as a teacher, and through that time he quit the corporate rat race and he decided to become a yoga teacher, which when you hear him, you'll realize it's his calling. But while he was a fit20 customer, he found he had great results. And he was stronger, and his 2 little kids, he was actually able to pick them both up. In fact, if he's all right with me sharing this, he realized he needed to do something about his strength because he was trying to lift the car seat up and he was like, oh man, this is tricky. So it was obviously not a very light car seat. And he realized that he was losing his strength, and fit20's, you know, got him back to being as strong as he's ever been, and he's in great shape now and he can pick both his kids up. And along the way, he liked fit20 as a customer so much, he got nosy and curious about how the franchise works. And he started asking me all these questions, and I'm thinking, he's asking questions that even our most sort of loyal members are not asking. Anyway, long story short, he told me that he was interested in starting fit20 about 15 minutes down the road. And it ended up working out that actually he could take over our national owned studio. Now, being a franchise organization, we'd be very particular about our national owned studio, because that's where people come to check us out if they want to buy a franchise. But because of the sort of person Matt is, he's an absolutely amazing individual, a dream franchisee, like all the rest of our franchisees, because we only work with great people. I've got to know him, and I would not only call him a work colleague, but I would regard him as a great human being and a good friend as well. So with no further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Matt Appleby. Let's give him a round of applause and make him feel welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Neri, for the kind introduction. I think you've said it all there. I don't need to say anything else about my background. So yes, I will say a little bit actually about why fit20 appealed to me so much, was because from the training I've done, I saw a lot of synergies with yoga practice and safe yoga practice, and the physiology side of it. And I know there are a few fit20 members on screen here. They'll surely attest to how great and how safe it is to work out in one of our facilities. So that really appealed to me, and like Neri said, got great results. So much so I saw how well it complemented a regular yoga practice. So what I'd like to share with you today is a very easy, simple seated practice that you can do at any time. And I think now more than ever, we really need this kind of thing, because most of us find ourselves stuck at home more than usual. Whether or not we've got the luxury of an office or a desk set up, maybe sat at the kitchen table, dining room table, maybe on the sofa, you've probably had a bit of a tweaked neck, back, shoulder, something like that. I know myself, just a couple of days ago, I woke up with a stiffest neck, and this is me, and I practice every day, so it can affect us all. So what I'm going to share with you is two things. We're going to breathe and we're going to move, and they are the essential components of a physical yoga practice. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit first about the breath, and this is something that most of us, probably unknowingly, don't do that well. We become quite inefficient in how we breathe. We tend to use auxiliary muscles, so muscles that aren't designed primarily to help us breathe, and that can actually increase our levels of stress, and we do this completely subconsciously. What's interesting about the breath is that it's something that is controlled automatically by the autonomic nervous system, but we do have the opportunity to change it, so we can consciously control it, and that has profound effects. So that is a science of yoga in and of itself, called pranayama, and it's something I teach a lot of, and it's a big part of my practice. So we're going to do some breathing, and we're going to breathe in a specific way. I'm going to share some music with you when we get there, which helps to make the breathing easy. And the reason I use this is because, especially with beginners, they'll come along to class and they'll say to me, I get the movements, I get the stretches, but I find that I'm either holding my breath, breathing in the wrong direction. And this is very common, because when we start to do something new, we tend to forget how to breathe. And we find this in fit20, the fit20 studio. Breathing is actually the most important factor for our fit20 training, yet it's the first thing that tends to go off the boil. You sit there and on the chest press, for example, and you hold your breath. And that's true of any kind of new movement techniques and practices. So what's interesting also about the breath is that it's the bridge between the body and the mind. So when you consider sort of wider practices like meditation, which are all part of yoga philosophy, it's the thing that links these two things together. So body, breath, and mind. Okay, what else was I going to talk to you about? So I've mentioned a little bit about the importance of the breath and how we have this great opportunity to control it and change the rhythm. The perfect breath is actually 5.5 seconds long, and that's a 5.5 second in breath and a 5.5 second out breath. There's been loads of research and science investigating this in recent years, but yogis have been doing this for thousands of years. I was taught in a very traditional way, but over my sort of journey and the trainings that I've done, I've learned lots of different approaches. In the last year, I've discovered something called resonant frequency breathing, and that's what we're going to do today, using the bit of music that I mentioned. And that helps to regulate the breath at 5.5 seconds. Now, this may feel quite a long breath for a lot of you. If you're intrigued and would like to read a bit more about this, there's a fantastic book called Breath by James Nestor. I'm sure Lucy will share the links and stuff with you for that afterwards. But the real principles of this kind of resonant frequency breathing are that at 5.5 seconds, we breathe in for 5.5 seconds, we breathe out, and this does a few things. It helps to regulate the nervous system, so we put the brakes on and come into a rest and digest state, which is fantastic because most of the time we're up in fight or flight, just because of the busy kind of lives that we live and the demands that we have in modern life. But that has a profound effect on heart rate. So when we slow the breath down, it helps to slow the heart rate down. This helps to slow down the flow of blood, and we get something called resonant frequency, which when we speak about resonance, people often think of sound. This is nothing to do with sound. It creates a waveform in the heart. So the breathing, the blood, all become in tune and in sync. So we're going to be doing some of that. And we're going to move in a slightly different way to what you may be accustomed to. So when you think of yoga, we often think of the stretch, which is great, but stretching isn't always necessarily the right approach. And if we overstretch muscles that are already tight, they can just tighten further. So this is called the stretch response. And those messages don't actually go all the way to the brain. So it's a very passive approach to movement. So let's say, for example, if you want to join in with me here, if you take your arm up and overhead and just feel your shoulder muscles there, there's a 4-letter word that will describe the feeling of that muscle there, and it's firm, it's not a rude one. So just let that go. And then if you take the same arm behind you and stretch it out behind, and now feel that shoulder, it should be relatively a 4-letter word begin with S, and that's soft. That should be relatively soft. So when we move a muscle through a joint, through a range of motion, it involves at least 2 muscles working in pairs. One will contract and tighten, and the other will lengthen. What we're going to be doing is focusing on the one that's tightening, which is a little unusual. This is known as somatics, or a somatic-based practice. So we're actually moving more intelligently than regular stretching. So by focusing on the, let's say in this position, the muscle that's tighter, we're going to tighten it slightly more than it's used to, and then slowly release it. And we're going to breathe and move at 5.5 seconds. So let me first of all try and get this tech sorted. I've got a couple of options should the first method not work. So I need to share music, and I could do with a volunteer or two just to do a quick sound check to make sure you can hear me as well as the music. So fingers crossed it's going to work. No, I don't want to do that. Wrong option. Computer sound. Okay. Can you hear some music? Can you still hear my voice? Is the music loud enough? Yeah? Yeah? Perfect. Fantastic. So this is a magic bit of music. It's called Sound Moves. It is freely available. It's on all the usual places, so your Apple Music, Spotify, all the rest of it. It's also on YouTube. And I learned about this through a fantastic teacher who I've done some training with in the last year, called Noah McKenna. And this music is sprinkled with all kinds of magic, but in short, it helps us to breathe at this regular rhythm. So it's a 5.5 second breath. So on this sound and the music rises, we breathe in. And as it falls, we breathe out. So try and come into that rhythm with your breath. Where possible, breathe in and out through the nose. But don't worry if you've got colds or congestion. And the qualities of the breath that we're looking for are small, so don't try and overfill your lungs. Just make it a nice, small, smooth breath. So breathe in on this sound and breathe out on this sound. If you feel inclined to do so, then please go ahead and close your eyes and just really tune into that feeling of breath. And where possible, see if you can bring the breath right into the bottom of the lungs. So this is known as abdominal breathing. You might like to pop your hands on your abdomen, upper abdomen. So if you bring your index fingers to touch at the bottom of the rib cage, you can check in with the abdominal breath here. Not always that obvious or accessible sitting, because we're holding some tension here to keep us upright, but you can do this lying down as well. So get into that rhythm of breathing. I'm going to move in a moment, but you stay exactly where you are and I'll talk you through the rest. When we get into the movement part of it, a couple of notes are just to make sure that you're safe. Any kind of discomfort, just going to adjust my camera slightly. Any kind of discomfort or if something doesn't feel right, then please just stop and take a moment just to come back to the breath. And make sure that you're safe primarily. So if you're on a chair, be it a dining style chair or a desk chair, just come slightly further forward than you would normally sit. So you're away from the backrest. And just find your centered position here, feet or hips width or thereabouts. Rest your palms face down in the lap and looking straight ahead. And take a moment first of all to tune into how the body feels, especially the back. Do a quick scan, feel from the sides of the neck, just have a little wiggle, notice any tension here, into shoulders, and then scan down through the spine, finally ending around the lower back. And just take a moment to tune into how you sat at this moment. So you felt into those different areas, but feel how that feels. Notice how your posture is. And in a moment, we're going to bring in some gentle movement. It's very gentle, but very effective. So remember, the emphasis should be on the muscles that are tightening, and I will explain which those are. So let's just come back to the breath in case you've forgotten which way you should be breathing. Breathe in on this sound and breathe out on this sound. Okay, next in breath, we're going to bring our chest forwards, go into a bit of a back bend. You might look up slightly and then just release that tension as you breathe out and continue like this. So breathe in, lift the chest, look up slightly, breathe out and just come back through to neutral. Let's do that another 3 times. You might move progressively further each time, but there's no reward for going further. It's not a competition. So here we're working the muscles in the back of the body. Final time here. And then after you release this time on the out breath, just pause in that neutral position and notice if there have been any changes already. You may find that The lower back especially feels different. Okay, next time we're going to take the spine in the opposite direction. So we're going to round and come almost into a forward bend. So as you breathe in, round through the spine, chin comes to chest. And as you breathe out, release, come back through neutral. Let's do this 4 more times together. Breathe in. And breathe out. Release. 3 more times like this. Chin comes to chest. And here you'll feel the muscles in the front of the body engaging. Nice smooth movements, easy breathing. And as you release this time, just settle here. And just take a moment, let's take a few breaths to check how the body feels. So we've activated muscles in the front of the torso and also in the back. Now we're going to alternate these two. And this kind of practice helps to balance between the two. So dependent on you as an individual, you will tend to favour either slumping and rounding forwards as you sit, or sitting beyond upright. So what this practice does is help to realign. So let's breathe out just here. Next in breath, we're going to lift the chest. And as you breathe out, let's round into that second position. So bring chin to chest. Your back may begin to fall towards the backrest, that's fine. Lifting the chest, looking up slightly. Breathe out as you round. Chin comes to chest last of all. Let's do another 3 like this. Breathe in. And breathe out. And final time to lift the chest. Breathe out to round. And then on the next in breath, just find your center. So lift. And take the gaze just below the horizon. So not quite straight ahead, a little bit down. Tucking the chin slightly. Pause a second here. I'm just going to move back so I'm facing the camera. So what we've done here is to retrain the muscles front and back of the body. You may have found some shifts already. And what somatics does is it helps to retrain the brain to muscle connection. So it works at a neuromuscular level. So these signals go all the way to the brain. And our brain tends to forget what a relaxed muscle feels like. So that's the idea behind these practices. Just to share with you briefly why I got into them, it was just over a year ago. I went to a weekend training and I'd held a lot of tension in my neck for about 6 or 7 years from an old injury that I had, a shoulder injury. And I'd tried everything. I'd had physio, I'd had chiropractic, I'd had acupuncture, all these kind of things. And nothing had given me long-term results. It might have helped short-term. But on that weekend, this tension just disappeared. And I thought, that is amazing. And I carried it on and got curious with it and added it into my own practice, and it's become what I teach these days. So we've worked forwards and backwards through the spine, so extension and flexion. We're now going to find our center by swaying side to side. So sit well. You can shuffle to the back of your chair now if you wish. But find that new center point for you. You may notice that you're sitting differently already. come back to the breath, breathing in on this sound and breathing out on this sound. Allow the palms to rest loosely face down in the lap. And it doesn't matter which way you go first. I think I'm mirrored on my screen, so I'll talk you through the opposite direction to I move. So as you breathe in, sway over to the left, allow the head to join in at the end, and breathe out, come back through center. Breathe in, sway in the opposite way. Again, there's no prizes for going far. Should be a gentle, smooth movement. Don't worry if you find you're going a little bit too fast, just come back next time and try and time. And here, feel like you're a plant or a weed or something at the bottom of a riverbed, just swaying with the current. That's it, good. Let's go one more time each way. And as you move, feel into the hips, into the pelvis. Notice how you're pitching your weight into one sitting bone and then over into the other. And let's steadily come back through center. So now find your center here. Okay, fantastic. So we've worked the spine in a couple of directions, and we're now going to do a little bit of a workout for the shoulders. So we're going to take the shoulders in 4 directions, and then we're going to finish with a nice big couple of circles, and this will feel like you've been to a spa for the afternoon. So first of all, let's just breathe and feel into our shoulders. Have a little bit of a wiggle around just to notice if there's any tension there, necks and shoulders. And let's start with our, this is my right, but it looks like left on screen, I think. So let's start with our left shoulder. So as you breathe in, we're going to draw that shoulder up towards the ear and breathe out as you release. Just allow it to soften down. Remember, the emphasis should be on the in-breath and the tightening of the muscle. Breathe in, breathe out to release. One more time to go up, shrugging it up towards the shoulder. And breathe out to lower down. Pausing here for a breath. On the next in-breath, we're going to take the shoulder down, so it won't feel quite as big a movement, but go with it. So it's like you're dropping your shoulder towards the hip, so breathe in, lower the shoulder. Breathe out to release. 2 more times like this. Breathing in. Breathing out. Once more. Left shoulder down towards the hip. Think of shortening that distance between the shoulder and the hip. Try to keep the rest of the body as still as you can. And pause here. Next direction is forwards, so again it won't feel quite as big a range of motion. So as you breathe in, take that shoulder forwards and breathe out as you release. Just allow the shoulder to come back through neutral. Breathe in, squeeze the shoulder forwards, feel the front of the chest tightening, releasing. Once more like this. Breathe in, allow the hand to slide on the thigh and release. Pause in the center now. Final direction is we're going to take the shoulder back. So this time you'll feel the work being done around the shoulder blade. So as you breathe in, draw that shoulder back. Breathe out, release that tension. Twice more like this. And release. And final time to draw the shoulder back. releasing just there. Pausing just here. To finish this off, we're going to incorporate all those directions. So we're going to do 2 big circles, 1 forwards, 2 forwards, 2 back. So with this one, be curious about any particular areas that feel difficult. If you find that you're getting a bit stuck with the movement, or there's some resistance there, it's probably showing up some pattern that you're kind of stuck in terms of your movement. So first of all, let's breathe in and raise the shoulder up towards the ear, but then take it forwards, down, and as we breathe out, let's take it back and up, and let's do that one more time. Forwards, down, as you breathe out, back and up, and just relax it here. And next we're going to take it the opposite way. So let's breathe in to raise the shoulder up, draw it back and down on the in-breath, take it forwards and up on the out-breath. Once more like this. Breathe in, take it down, back, and take it forwards and up, and let's release it there. Just come back to the breath. I invite you to close the eyes if you're comfortable doing that, or just cast the gaze down. Take a moment to, first of all, without any movement, feel into the shoulders. And now take a bit of a wiggle and notice how the side you've just worked feels compared to the other. Give me a thumbs up if it's feeling a lot more relaxed. Fantastic. Good stuff. We're going to finish off by doing the same on the other side, so we're nice and balanced. So be curious here when you're moving, compare it to the other side. You may find that one side feels quite different to the other. That a lot will depend on which is your predominant side. So most of us are right-handed. You may find that it's easier to move the left side, for example. Okay, so we're going to start out with those compass points. So as we breathe in, take the opposite shoulder up towards the ear, shrugging it up. And just soften and release as you breathe out. Let's do that 2 more times. Breathe in. Remember to focus on the tension and just relax as you breathe out. Just allow it to soften back down. Once more, breathing in. And breathe out. Good. Pausing here for 1 breath before we go down. Okay, next in breath, we're going to draw this shoulder down. So breathe in, drawing it down towards the hip. Feel that distance between the shoulder and the hip reducing. 2 more like this. So here we're activating the muscles in the waist. And breathe in to lower the shoulder. And breathe out to release. Good, come back to center. You may have noticed some change already. Okay, next in breath, let's take that shoulder forwards. We're shrugging forwards. Feel that tension in the upper chest, around the collarbone, that area. Breathe in, squeeze the shoulder forwards, tightening through those upper chest muscles, and release. Once more as you come forwards. And release. And then pausing here for a breath. Final direction is backwards. So let's breathe in. Draw the shoulder back. Feel the muscles around the shoulder blade engaging. And release as you relax back to neutral. Drawing the shoulder back and releasing. Final time backwards. And release. Pausing here. Again, noticing any changes already. And we're going to finish off with those big shoulder circles. Again, just be curious about any areas of resistance that may show up. If you do notice that, kind of pause there for a moment if it gets a bit sticky, if things don't want to move, and then carry on. Okay, so first of all, we're going to inhale and raise the shoulder, and then draw it forwards and down on the inhale, and then back and up on the exhale. Nice, smooth, large circles. Final time, back and up, and then pausing just here. And then final time is backwards. So let's breathe in to raise the shoulder, draw it back, down, and then come forwards and up. On the final round, backwards, down, forwards, up, and release. Let's finish by taking a moment. Again, feel free to close the eyes. Notice how you're feeling. Notice what you're noticing. Give both shoulders a bit of a shimmy, a bit of a shake. Hopefully feeling like you've had a completely free massage. There we go. I'm just going to take the music away. So folks, as we would say in a yoga class, namaste, thank you for your practice. Let me stop the music. I can still hear it, but you can't. Fabulous. I'd love to know what people discovered or experienced, if anybody's willing to do so.
Yeah, I'll jump in, Matt. Yeah, that was great. Thanks for taking us through that. I don't know about anyone else, but just completely feel so much more chilled from that small practice. And I didn't know I wasn't before.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's so subtle and yet so powerful, the difference that it can make. So yeah, thanks for sharing.
Very welcome. Thank you.